You guys wanted the tilt space. Well, today you are going to get the tilt space. The heater is over. We are bombing in the Thunderdome with our Dak Prescott double stack. But there's more drama on our hands, which is Michael Leone sweating out another big lineup in the luxury box. But I don't know about you, Joe, but I do not want to hear one single thing about it.
Yeah, no. Can we just talk about how brutal FanDuel is for an hour and then get out of here? I would just prefer not to talk about the other stuff. That's cool with you guys.
Yeah, FanDuel, I believe all of us have some nice lineups over there, but it's all conjecture. We don't know. Leone, because you're legally not allowed to talk about your lineups on DraftKings, what's your thoughts on the FanDuel situation?
I only played on DraftKings, so I hope you guys are having.
This is already the worst thing.
So enjoy your FanDuel tilt.
Let me.
You're probably going to get a free roll out of it, though. So really, I mean, that's pretty plus EV.
Just to give you guys a little background, so we've been sweating. So this is our team in the Thunderdome. We had the Dak Prescott double stack at running back. We had Antonio Gibson and Kareem Hunt. At wide receiver, we had Gallup, we had Lamb, we have Ingram at tight end. We have what do we have? Nuke Hopkins.
Hollywood.
And we have
Hollywood. We didn't have
Hollywood.
Hopkins. We played Hollywood.
We have Hollywood. See, I've already tried to put this out of my memory, and we have Mike Davis. Leone will put it up, or I can't even talk. Holka will put it up on the screen for you. I poured myself 3 drinks for this show. I poured myself 3 drinks because little did I know when Zeke scored, I was tilting hard, and Leone's real quiet, just oddly quiet. Little do I know, he's sweating him sitting in 3rd place for $75,000 in another lineup. And I knew it. This fucking snake didn't care that Zeke scored. In fact, he wanted him to score.
We are 2 weeks removed from Leone just absolutely shredding me for cheering for my own teams on FanDuel. And here we are, week 5, when we have our most action we've ever had in play. We're all cumulatively trying to sweat this Thunderdome team. And Leone's sitting over there with a big smile on his face right now.
Yeah, why don't you just drop off, fire up a little Periscope? You have 32 live viewers, and you guys can just all fist pump every single Zeke carry together.
Listen, this is how I remember. I don't know if you remember us lineup building on Thursday early or not, but team I'm sweating is awfully similar to that team we discussed.
Hey, look, here's the thing, and this is for the viewers, okay? This morning, and even up to last night, we were pretty set on a Watson team. We were really close on it, and we saw the ownership start to move on Dak, and we're like, holy shit, he's not going to be super owned. Everyone's shifting over to Teddy and Mahomes, which ended up being true. And our tiebreaker was for the viewers. We go live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. If we have a Watson team, like my team in the Spy, all my guys are done. We need something to sweat on air. So we did a Dak team for you, the people. And now Leone's going to cross his, arms and say, well, we could have played Watson, and that would have worked out pretty well.
I mean, what we thought would happen happened. Right? I mean, we got really low ownership on Lamb. We got really low ownership on Dak and Gallup. And I think we talked about this, as tilting as it is for us to probably not cash here. We think it's a pretty plus EV contest, which is nuts to say about the contest with the sharpest players, but people are just dumping cash teams in there. There's teams with Watson that are barely single stacked. Watson was 32%, but Cooks was, I think, 8 and Fuller was 16. And you had 64% ownership on Zacchaeus, 64% ownership on Slayton, 64% ownership on Robbie Anderson. I mean, that's insane at a volatile wide receiver position. So you're pretty plus EV just if you just got away from the receiver chalk period, I think you'd be plus EV, which is basically what we did. And it doesn't look like it's going to work out. We had a couple of DTDs in this game. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Nick in the chat says, hey, Leone, can your headphones get any bigger? I actually have the same question. Are you moonlighting as an air traffic controller?
Yes, you don't have to be. My headphones aren't any bigger than Holka's. He's just got that black hat that disguises him.
I just got a big head, man. It fits it fits the shape of my head a little bit better. That's all that matters. Man, I'm
enjoying some nice sour beers.
I'm with you. on the on some of the chalk here. I also think that like there was one play that made me extremely uncomfortable, but I like you guys have been right about these ones. Like obviously the week where we were just like sweating Mixon was great. There was times where we try and play these running backs so we can project for 15 touches, and this is like what can go wrong, I guess. Was this a situation where Gibson was expected to see more work and it just didn't work out with game script? Or I guess that's the only problem I have with anything we did today, if I'm being completely honest. It's hard to tilt some of the things we did. I just 5K for Gibson when we have all of these really strong running backs on the board. I guess it doesn't really matter because CEH like failed anyways, and we basically just got the same amount of points for much
real
less.
Quick. So it looks like Dak just broke his ankle. Like not like full stop. No not way. A joke. It looks really, really bad.
Oh that's my God.
He took off on a rush play there, God. And it is. I just saw that live after seeing the chat spoil it, and that was so gross.
Yikes! I'm glad I don't have it up right now because I don't really want to see that.
I knew it was coming from the chat, and I didn't expect it to be that bad. Oh,
and I knew it was coming from you, and I didn't expect it to be that bad.
Yikes!
That sucks. I mean, he was. I mean, that just sucks. I mean, to bring us away from that, the Gibson play, it was a little thin, Joe, but he's getting goal line work. He's getting early down pass work, but he definitely was seeding pass work to McKissick on third downs. You know, their snaps were pretty even last week. So there was some hope that it would escalate, but he was barely owned. He was a lot cheaper than the other running backs. The other running back, I was somewhat afraid to say it, but Devonta Freeman was kind of in that range. But, you know, I don't know. Would you have felt better if we played Devonta Freeman instead of Gibson? I don't think you would have.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been too much different, right? Like, well, I guess he's still kind of been getting up to full speed since he's joined this team. What did you guys have for his touch projection over at ETR?
I'm gonna give you some shit here.
Let's hear it.
You don't want us to play shaky running backs.
Correct.
You don't want us to play a wide receiver and flex.
Correct.
You know,
there's 25 people in this contest.
We don't want to play.
Look at the team that's in first place as a cash lineup.
We don't want to play 3 chalk running backs. Like, I mean, that doesn't leave us with many options there for the flex spot.
Sure.
Well, so that was the thing.
There's plenty of ways we can do running back differently and not play guys that are going to get the ball 15 times.
What did you want to play? I mean, I just don't know if we could have afforded anyone.
Maybe not. And for the record, we all really liked the Hollywood one-off, and that's kind of what ate the rest. Like, he was like our last guy in, right? Based on like kind of what we had built.
I guess if we went Cooks, with Cooks' ownership projected low, we could have done a Cooks one-off and like an expensive running back, but that would have, yeah. I mean, I guess we could have done Cooks and maybe, but Nuke wouldn't have fit, I don't think.
Well, like realistically, it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter. Like Gibson basically matched Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm just saying, like, going forward, like, how do we make those type of decisions better? Do we try and play these guys that are in like suboptimal spots? Like, I know that like we didn't seriously consider Miles Sanders, but if we're just looking at the role, the matchup couldn't have been worse.
I would have played Miles Sanders.
Well, I know you had some. That's why I brought it up. I would have
played Miles Sanders.
You had some on the site that you said you didn't play on, right? You had some FanDuel shares of them? Or did I make that up?
I had them on DraftKings.
Okay.
I had him on DraftKings. And it was a Lamar team that ended up being dead, even though Sanders did well. I don't know. You just can't, with the pricing the way it is right now, unless you're going to take really cheap stacks, you kind of can't play the 3 running backs that you'd ideally want to play with really good workloads. And, you know, if you're not going to, I think we made the right move saying, okay, there's 4 chalk running backs. We're going to play 2. I think that was right.
What
yeah, and the other thing is you got to remember how we built that lineup. We were then down to the flex and we had the 5,000 and it just worked for Gibson. Like if it was a wide receiver we liked, we would have played that wide receiver. It was just that Gibson fit. Like I don't really think about building lineups as like I have to play 3 of this in, or you know, this in the flex. We start building the pieces and then we see what fits.
It was a little bit thin, Joe. I'll give you that. I mean, the snap share wasn't a huge disparity last week. It's a guy that can break a big play. You know, he was seen work in the passing game. We've seen all the goal line work. And, you know, he came out, he had 6 DraftKings points, like on the first drive, like out of the gate. And the risk you take when you play a running back in a bad matchup is the offense sucks, and the offense sucked, and I think sometimes you just gotta be like, okay, they couldn't do anything, and he still scored 10 DraftKings points.
All right, Holka, we're getting overruled in the chat. People want to know about Leone's lineup. Leone, tell them about it. I'm going to drink a Coors Light that I haven't opened while you explain everything that's going on with this.
It is, it's a team, Peter and I were looking at a very similar build. It's a Deshaun Watson triple stack with Fuller, Cooks, and Fouls. Running back Chenault, playing Zeke and Mike Davis. They were my two favorite chalk running backs. And then getting DeAndre Hopkins in flex. And then the Panthers D. Panthers D, man, ran bad at the very end of the game. I thought they were going to feast on Matt Ryan. They had a desperation drive. Instead, they convert a really long 4th down and kick a meaningless field goal. So instead of getting points on that drive, the Panthers D actually lost 3 points, which looms really large right now. I need at least 12 more points from Zeke to even have a chance. And even then, there's some Slayton teams chasing, some Hunt teams chasing, some Giants and Dallas defense teams chasing.
Dude, how many people are in this contest?
Let's look at it. There is 370 people in it, 200K up top, 11 max. Dude, I'm not kidding. This is the first time I've looked at this lineup because I've been so tilted all day. We might have built a very, very, very similar Watson team at some point, because like the one flagship play, or your flagship play, that we all were really high on in tournaments was Hopkins, right? And just somehow he doesn't make it into our group team. It's the same thing with Aaron Jones. We just didn't get him on our group team, but all of us played him on like our ancillary teams alone. Like why are we hedging those things out?
I'll take the L on that one. It wasn't a hedge situation. It was,
no, but we all
I
loved
saw the
it.
ownership rising on Nuke, and I saw the ownership rising there, and I saw the ownership on Dak. It just didn't quite fit. Like if it had fit, maybe we would have had to play a really cheap receiver if we wanted to play, because him over Hollywood is pretty expensive.
What was the difference on the Nuke one that we messed around with Dak? Do you guys remember what the 2v2 was that we were considering? Not that it would have mattered now that Dak's hurt. I can't remember what it was.
It was I think it was a Schultz Slayton team.
We would have had to gone
instead of playing.
Right.
Yeah. We would have had to gone down from Hunt probably to fit him.
Well, at least we were all like, literally as we're building this team, we're like, okay, of the 3 running backs not named Zeke, who's the one we are not fading? And every single one of us said Mike Davis. So we got that right, at least. Like, it was good chalk. So that's fine.
It as much as I want to just like recklessly tilt, and I'm drinking beers at a pace that will facilitate that, we are right now, and again, we're done, but like we're less than 25 points out of the cash line. We had an Evan Ingram touchdown called back right there. We had a very weird game script with the Cowboys getting a defensive touchdown. There's been lots of stuff that hasn't quite gone our way. Leone, describe what happened at the end of that Panthers game. That was another 5 or 6 point swing for us.
Yeah, the Panthers were up 10 and there's 50 seconds left, and Atlanta's just going to have to drop back, throw, desperation situation. They end up completing a 4th and 10 with about 10 seconds left, and then kick a super long field goal and make it so they can try the onside kick in the Hail Mary. I think there was 4 seconds left at that point. So we got 0 Carolina D points. In fact, we lost 3 points on the long field goal. So that was super tilting.
All right, Leone, you just got a Zeke TD. Fuck it. I'll be happy for you. How are we looking?
Second. Let's go, bro.
Let's go, Leone.
4.5 back, but there's definitely stuff. If Slayton even gets, I'm fading 5 more points.
So
you can be happy. You can be happy right now. This is a legitimate slot for 200K.
I'm over it. I hate Leone. He's an asshole, but we are going to collectively root for him right now.
All right. I'm willing to put all the personal stuff aside because we are a team. But Leone, I guess since we're just completely dead everywhere else, I guess our super contest is good.
Yeah, let's talk about our super contest. Winner take all. What were our picks today? Let me pull them up here. Are they on the bottom of the screen?
They're on the screen, bro. I got you. I'm a professional producer. I can tilt. I can do graphics. I can do social media all at the same time, man. You got this.
This he's a triple threat. All Leone can do is just fucking make good DFS teams. Brings nothing else to the table. We got Cleveland plus 1.5. We have Baltimore minus 12.5, Carolina plus 1.5, Dallas minus 9.5, Arizona minus 7. The sweep is in play here if Dallas can close.
Leone can't even talk.
5-0 would be huge. I think we jumped to what, 20th place in that on 4. We had the disastrous 1-4 week. We finally stopped picking New Orleans. We got to 4-1 last week. 5-0 this week. I mean, I think that would put us top 10 and like within striking distance. And the thing is, like, there was line movement against the Carolina pick from what Westgate had it at. There was line movement against the Baltimore pick. So if people were picking up closing line value, they may not have picked a couple of the ones that we picked.
They don't understand that the optimal strategy for the winner take all super contest is for us to frantically message each other minutes before the picks are due with what we've decided on and then submit them. That is how you win this contest. Poor Corbs, man. Every Saturday being like, are these assholes going to get their picks into us? Literally yesterday, Leone's like, so what did we settle on? And I'm like, let me scroll back through our thread from 4 days ago. Maybe we should dedicate a little more time to our super contest picks. Yeah. Or
maybe we should have. Doing great.
Maybe we're just outside of the hive mind. And as just beautiful independent thinkers, we just land on the winners on our own. Yeah, Seiler is always pushing.
I mean, you did it. Didn't you do a video earlier in the week on our picks?
Yeah, no? I'm trying to remember which 5 it was because I think it was slightly different than the ones that we actually submitted.
It was slightly different, but it was at least 3 or 4 of the same.
I think there might have been only one
Cleveland,
change there. Yeah, I can bring it up.
Peter was on Arizona. That might have been the change. We liked Denver, and that game got canceled.
Yeah, I am like pretty sick to my stomach about this Dak thing. Just as a football fan, as a guy who has him on season-long teams, as a guy who's enjoyed playing him in DFS, as a guy who loves watching the Cowboys put up a shit ton of fantasy points, pretty sick to my stomach right now.
I'm just going to try really hard to root for Leone here. This entire day I was so curious as to why there were certain things you were getting very tilted about that didn't impact us at all, but then there was also things that impacted us greatly that you seem to not really care too much
I was
about.
Mostly tilting the stuff that negatively impacted us. There were just some things I didn't speak up about. I was silent fist pumping. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're anti-sweating your bros? You just art of the silent fist pump.
The thing that's also so gross about it is we did the dome because everyone was chanting dome. It was fun to chant dome, but I'm sitting here thinking last week we won 50,000 and now we need to go in here and tell people how excited we are to compete for 40,000. And I'm like, the luxury box, that's the contest. $3,000 entry, $200,000 up top. Let's go get $200,000. Meanwhile, Leone just wiggles his way into that contest on his own and has the sweat that we're supposed to have together.
With one of the lineups we probably built last night, literally. Almost the same thing.
I actually do want to ask Leone this question because I had a similar Watson lineup I reconfigured this morning. I had talked about Eifert kind of as my bring back, and then Fells opened up. So I got off of Cooks and swapped him to Shenault and swapped Eifert to Fells. And you sharply just went with the mega onslaught and kept Cooks in there. I think a lot of people would be like, wow, that's a lot to have from one team. Talk through why that made sense for you in this lineup.
Honestly, we've just seen so much volatility at tight end that I didn't want to overthink it. And I figured I'll correlate my tight end. Once Akins was out for sure this morning, this was actually, I don't know, Peter, if you remember, we built a lineup with Herndon earlier in the week. This is that lineup with Fells over Herndon.
Yeah.
And it is a little scary because Houston, it's not like they throw a ton. They're just super efficient. But Fells, you're basically just hoping he scores a touchdown, which is what happened. I mean, it was lucky that I believe it was a long touchdown, which you are not expecting out of Fells whatsoever. But it was kind of like if Fells catches one touchdown, I'm fine. That's fine. And then hopefully Cooks and Fuller do. I mean, Fuller didn't even do that great.
Nick Sharman in the chat, October 18th, Revenge of the Dome. Fuck that. Fuck the Dome. Are you kidding? I don't get out of bed for $40,000 anymore. All right? I'll play the Spy. I can win $100,000 in the Spy. I don't want to play the Dome against fucking Empire Maker and Schlong running the same cash optimal lineup.
But it's pretty EV though. Haven't we gone over this? I mean, come on, 64%. I mean, it's hard to withstand that variance at that price point, and that's why these guys that are in that are goats, because they have built up the bankroll. Because Empire Maker doesn't even give a fuck about the Thunderdome, because that's 1/100th of his action on this slate.
Man,
Empire Maker's like on a plane to Portland to investigate the Antifa anarchists over there, and he's just jamming the cash lineup into the Thunderdome.
Literally the cash lineup though, because he has a literally Texans defense against his quarterback and one of his wide receivers. Like, doesn't care. Like, their price is good enough to play him at 2,600. Just put him in there, get your 9 points, and get out of there. Easy game. Unreal.
Anything I'd like better than a tournament where 25 people and 20 of those people are playing a cash game lineup and not really stacking. I mean, you're plus EV in that.
I know.
It's more fun to make.
I agree with you. I do think the luxury box is the sweet spot for this show. Like, I think the optimal for this show is a lineup in the luxury box, and then we max enter the juke, $400 3 max. We have 4 lineups with big prizes available at all of them. I'd also like to say, I went apple picking yesterday. I picked up some Honeycrisp hard cider, which I'm now going to drink. Just wanted to say this show is sponsored by Line Movement and Carlson Orchard's Honeycrisp cider. Bold and refreshing.
Oh my God, dude.
And
someone in the chat's like, I played tons of Texan D. Yeah, did you play him with your quarterback? Unreal. I am very happy for you, Leone, because you have Hopkins, and I literally don't have near enough Hopkins, and that's like the one play we talked about a ton this morning. I don't know how he didn't end up on our Thunderdome team.
It's honestly a great team, and it makes me live it.
It is a good team.
I came into the morning and all I played was Watson and Mahomes stacks. That's what I had. And then the ownership flipped to Mahomes. And we talked about this. The obvious GPP pivot at quarterback was Mahomes. The obvious GPP pivot at tight end was Kelsey. And I still played him. I'm glad I didn't go full Galaxy brain. You know, I still kept this Watson team. I kept the Mahomes team, but I did spread out a little bit on ownership. And I can't be mad about it because, like we said, I mean, look at our team. Like, if you would have said we got these ownerships against the Fields ownerships, you guys would have played this 10 times out of 10. Our Thunderdome team.
What do you think about the Cooks ownership in this one? So in the Thunderdome, Cooks was 8%. He's in Empire Maker's team at first. But in the 3K that you're in right now, the luxury box, he was 15%. 15% in a 3K entry. I thought that was a little bit higher than I thought he'd be. Maybe this is a result of how many people played Watson stacks in this.
It's because people actually stack. I mean, that's what he should have been in the Thunderdome. Watson was 32% in the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
It's nuts that Cooks was a quarter of the ownership as Watson at his price. But people aren't stacking there.
All right,
and that's the difference. People are stacking in the luxury box.
Let's set the stage here for this Leone sweat. The Cowboys have the ball. They are up 31-23. We have a ton of time left. Leone is 4.54 points. No, 3. I can't even do math. Whatever. He's roughly 4 points out of first place right now. We need some Zeke bust-off runs, maybe a little screen pass. Let's get it.
I mean, no Dak. You got to think they're going to ride Zeke here, right?
It's got 27 yards for the bonus, but I have some serious fades on Kareem Hunt and Darius Slayton, so it's tough. I'm hoping the Colts kind of eat some clock, even though they're trailing here.
Slayton's the big one, right? Behind you, there's a Zeke team and Slayton 5 points back.
Slayton's 5 points behind me, and Hunt's like 7. There's a Hunt Dallas D 7 points behind, which is terrible. Yep. I mean, I'm definitely a big dog here. I look pretty good to do. Oh my God, Dalton almost threw a pick 6. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I get those 4.5 Zeke points. I'm in really good shape to finish top 3, but if Hunt had a huge play like that could really kill me, because a lot of the teams chasing our Hunt. Whereas Slayton, that team's super close, but there's only one Slayton team I think that's really close.
I made 3 drinks for the show, and I'm down to 2.5 drinks, and we're 25 minutes in.
Is that good?
I mean, you're down to half a drink.
Does that mean you had half a drink in 30 minutes? Or you have half a drink left?
Yeah.
I have half a drink left.
So you're down to half a drink.
So I had apple cider with whiskey. I'm kind of on this autumnal kick, if you will. I chugged the Coors Light while Leone was describing his beautiful team he made without us. And then I cracked open this Honeycrisp cider, which my wife and I bought that we were supposed to enjoy together, and I've blown through them today, the 4-pack we bought. So that's where I'm at today.
How about the only thing that can make this day slightly better? Obviously, if Leone takes this thing down, great, super happy for you, bro. Whatever. If FanDuel just like magically turned on and we could actually see what happened, because Pete, you feel pretty good about your FanDuel teams right now, right? Because I actually think that I have at least. Did you see that
lineup?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think I have at least one team that legitimately is good in like a pretty decent sized contest. So I don't know.
Please count that as a rush attempt and not a sack.
And believe it or not, it's a Watson team, since I guess we played him everywhere else but our Thunderdome team. Obviously.
Look, I will say, like, I'm tilting and I want to tilt, but I do feel like our process is fucking dialed in, like really good. I feel like the things that we were getting on, what we talked about last night with Watson, and again, I'm gonna tilt, but I'm also not gonna tilt. I wanted to do the Dak team so we had a sweat on the stream. I didn't want to come on here and have no guys going and just be like, whatever. I wanted to do this for the people. That's how selfless I am. I was willing to take my stake in our Thunderdome and give it up for the people.
Man.
As Leone mumbles under his breath. After me just telling our listeners and our viewers how much I think about him, and all Leone can think about is his own fucking pockets and just stuffing them with cash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just realized do we do the explicit tag on this podcast? I guess we do.
Oh,
now.
Yeah, buddy. I forgot to add that to the things that I do for this podcast. I also upload it directly after this. So, yes, I will put the explicit tag on it. Don't you worry. While you're sitting over there finishing off the rest of that case of beer, I'll make sure we get the explicit
got a small
tag
drinking bladder, guys. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
It's the only podcast that has a third of it broadcasted from a Joanne Michaels, but still has an explicit tag on it.
Mm-hmm.
And fabrics.
Pete, we got a couple of your
Joanne
regulars in the chat right now. Love that. I see like literally the same. We do what? 3 shows together throughout the week? It's always the same names in the chat that are just like ripping you the entire time. They don't even talk to me. They only want to talk to you.
Well, that's right. What do we got? Yeah, we got my buddy Mike. Good content over good lineups. This is for you guys. Cobra wants to know, anyone in here with a Fulgham Claypool team? Any witch doctors?
Anyone with a Claypool team? Like,
cut out
like anyone with a Claypool team, period.
He's a grown ass man, guys.
Oh, dude, he almost had 5 touchdowns. He had OPI, and I think he had also like narrowly stepped out of bounds, but he basically threw a guy down and ran for a touchdown, but it got called back. Oh my God, Bill Rivers, Jesus, buddy.
I want an informal poll for the people who are watching now. Like, legitimately, what do you guys like? Do you like drunk tilting and being upset? Do you like seeing front runners and hearing about our winners? Do you like hearing us talk about the plays in construction? What do you guys like about the tilt space? Because I would say we're a pretty versatile crew. We can do it all. Every 4 seconds I change, but I would like to know what you guys enjoy the most.
Well said, brother. Well said.
Needed Dearness Johnson touchdown to put this game out of reach. That's what I enjoy the most is Dearness Johnson. On Siegel, 0 RB, puts in a big bid for Dearness. Let's have it pay off here.
I haven't even looked at my spy team yet. How's your guys' spy team? So, Leone, you have that in this too?
I do.
Come on.
I've been drawing.
I do.
Yeah, Leone, what were you in this? Is it the same lineup, Leone?
Yeah, it's the same lineup. It's in 28th.
Yeah, I am cashing in the spy. I'm in 428th with the lineup that is slightly different. I ended up going to Tyreek Hill as my one-off instead of Nuke, just the way it fit with how I was building. So I didn't quite get there. And I didn't jam in Cooks. That was my big sacrifice where Leone sharply kept Cooks in and I got off of him because I didn't have the stomach for the triple stack, which I should have, which would have allowed me to get to both Nuke and Hopkins. But
my team was actually pretty similar to
Dan
Leone's
Hopkins,
with some very, very key errors. So instead of Mike Davis, I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I also had DJ Chark instead of Chenault. So that was pretty much the difference. Had Felds at tight end, had Watson with Fuller, Zeke. Like outside, I think like our teams were very similar. I guess got some very, very clear things wrong. You got right. So shout out to you.
all right, I'm gonna read the
I'm dead on a slate in play, but it's still alive for second.
Empire Maker is now in second.
Bonus.
So what just happened that vaulted Roxy girl there?
Slating got the bonus.
Oh, okay.
Someone just
guys, I'm gonna really quickly read you.
Really freaking good catch too. I mean, just great play by
Here are the informal results from the poll of what people like. Drunk tilting, front runners. I like sweating. Drunk tilting, construction. We want to see you cry. I like you guys winning and talking about plays. Construction theory. All three. I'd like to see Leone ship 200K. I like when you guys win and don't yell at Leone. Construction, plays in construction, drunk fun, plays in construction, drunk tilt, current sweats, construction, all the above. Hard hat. Got you. Drunk tilting is nice. Drunk front running with a side of tilting and the construction. Drunk everything. Damn Leone. Okay, so I think we got it. It's a little bit of everything with a lot of alcohol involved. That's what they like.
I think we can do that.
All right, cheers.
I think we can do
Cheers.
that.
Cheers, fellas. Let's get you here, Leone. We got to get you back in a second.
What are our outs here? Does this guy have Zeke also? Is Roxy go?
I'm fading even more Slayton. I don't know. It's looking pretty bleak now. There's the chalk Slayton hitting is he's 31% owned in this. I need Zeke to go nuts basically and just run the clock out in this game.
Yeah, I mean
Do you have one lineup in this, Leone?
Yeah, one lineup.
Leone's just a poor that can only afford one in the luxury box.
Just choosing which one to put it in the 3K correctly. What a life, man.
Hey, God, let's now gang up on Holka. Why do you tilt like which lineup is in what contest?
What do you mean? It's so random. Are you kidding me?
That's the point. They're all the same probability.
You can live with yourself if you put a lineup like this that Leone just made. You can live with yourself if this is in like the spy for $100 and then randomly a different lineup is in like the 3K. You don't care. Doesn't matter. I can't handle that. I like literally wouldn't be cheering for any of my other teams unless they're like equal.
Weak. I don't know what else to say. You are mentally weak, Joe.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
So what do you do? Just not play good contests?
No, like if I'm gonna play 5 teams, I'll play like the Wildcat and down and everything on each of them, like the equal amount. So like on FanDuel, I think I played like the whatever the thing above the 222 is. I played that and I played everything below it.
So what you're saying, Holka, is that you want to have every lineup in the same amount so that there's zero regrets based on outcome, that you have every lineup in those?
I'd say the only, I guess, difference is there'll be teams that I build throughout the week that are kind of just to get them out of my head. I'll put those in the Millionaire Maker and nothing else usually, just so that they're out there. But yeah, my main teams that I'm actually like hand building and like trying to do correctly, like I prefer to have them in the same amount of action as like all my other teams, basically. To each his own. But I mean, honestly, it's good for you guys to just be able to do that. I personally cannot.
The way I think about it is, and I'm with you, Joe, in that like I've been hand building for the main slate 5 or 6 lineups, and I'll sprinkle them in. I'll put one in this spy, one in that spy, one in the $50 single entry, put a few in this 3 max here, blah, blah, blah. Like I'll sprinkle them around. So I have each lineup in a couple of spots, but I'm not beating it's all random. It's literally rolling the dice. If I think I'm making all positive EV lineups, it doesn't matter where they are. They all have a similar probability hit rate.
And it's not like I'm playing one in the 3K and, 3 in the power sweep and that's it. I try to keep it a little bit closer, but the luxury box has a sweet payout structure. I wanted to put a team in there. We've been running hot. So I wasn't going to not play a team in there because I was freaking out I'd picked the wrong one.
Leone, are you running like 100 like simulations for Showdown right now? Because you are getting choppy as hell, my friend. We got some pixels. It's not that big a deal, but What are we rolling
Let me
over
see
there?
if I can close some stuff out. I'm really.
The people want
I'm
to see
not
your
even
beautiful
playing
face when you
showdowns,
take this thing down. And Peter's
Leone's got a bunch of tabs up with sewing machines he wants to buy on eBay for his craft room. Can you just close out those eBay tabs?
It's getting worse. Might be me and you, Pete. We might have to sweat this thing without Leone.
Oh, that's how
Let's
I would
see.
prefer to sweat a Leone lineup is without Leone.
That's true. We'll just go full screen back and forth until he straightens it out. He might legitimately have dropped the call just now. Interesting. He just doesn't.
Yeah,
want
we all need the Holka camera. I mean, it literally makes him look like a character in Grand Theft Auto. It's unreal. There he goes. We lost Leone. This is what we needed.
We can go no camera if we want. Looks like he might be back.
Let's see here.
Live look at Leone right now on screen. There he is. He's back. Probably can't even hear us though.
Yeah, I can hear you, you son of a bitch.
Maybe if he wins the 200K, we can get Leone some decent internet.
Honestly, like I freaked out and I was trying to close things out to make it speed up, and I closed out Chrome.
I'm just gonna leave it up because like the one guy that's like up to win 200K right now is like the fuzziest guy on our screen. So I think it's almost like
why am I fuzzy?
Justice.
I don't understand.
I love.
I don't have anything open.
Don't care.
Paul says the evolution of webcam technology from left to right. It's going from Joe to me to Leone.
So good. We just can't put Leone on full screen the rest of the day, I guess. It's all good. When he wins this contest, we'll get him a DSLR camera. We'll be golden. Don't they just hook you guys up with a bunch of gear at ETR, man? Like literally, Wiggins was in the top 10 for a bit too in this thing. Maybe Wiggins can hook you up. Wiggins has a shirt. I saw this on one of his shows. He actually has like a SM7B microphone. It's like the Joe Rogan microphone. Like he's not messing around. The swag from that guy, from Wiggins, like Peter mentioned this earlier this week. Unbelievable.
Just throw it away, Danny.
You just said that as if like Daniel Dimes was your son and you were like sweating him in a flag football game. Throw it away, Danny.
We've been over this. We've run the reps.
Ryan Osborne.
So disappointed.
Ryan Osborne wants to know, why aren't you drinking red wine, Leone? Do you have a sweat drink here, or am I drinking for 3?
Berry Vision sour fruit beer.
Okay.
I like the sours. I'm into sours. After drinking IPAs for like 7 years, I'm kind of done with the IPA scene.
I like sours too, but now, there's a little crisp in the air. In fact, there's a honey crisp in the air, guys. Today's episode sponsored by Carlson's Orchards Honey Crisp apple cider.
I did almost buy some like beer cider. I don't know. It's a local place, makes a really good hard cider. I almost bought some of those, but I got the sours instead.
I guess like my entire kitchen basically sponsored by Yeti. So I got the Yeti around the White Claw. Does that make me like, what kind of person are you guys judging me for the White Claw thing? I know a lot of people are excited about Leone drinking wine every night, but I feel like I'm being judged for the White Claw thing.
You are. We all think you're a basic bitch, but that's fine.
It's not a big deal. And maybe I'm just like very comfortable in my surroundings. Just don't care. I think that's like the key to basically everything. Just like care less, right? That's kind of
care less.
It's kind of how
we could all.
Unless that means playing Gibson at running back. I think then we should all just care less.
The least of our oh my goodness, Joe. If it was up to Joe, we would have played Zeke, CEH, and Mike Davis and just eaten all the chalk.
I mean, we're 5 weeks into the year, like like twice already. Oh, who's our favorite GPP play? Oh, Aaron Jones, no question. We don't play him. We all play him on our individual teams. Every one of us plays him.
What does this have to do with Gibson?
No,
I'm getting there.
No,
I'm getting
Joe.
there.
Okay,
now
I'll let you get there.
Today, who's the one GPP play that we agree is like the most leverage and like ceiling on the slate that we just didn't play, but we all played on our other teams? It's Hopkins. It's like we got to learn from this at some point. I understand there's nothing to do with Gibson, but Gibson.
We did win 50K last week. I mean, let's like not forget about that. And we did it playing a running back that you would not have played.
Actually, I'll push back a little bit there. It's not that I would not have played Mixon. Mixon is actually the kind of guy that I'm up for. Like whatever, his ceiling is still to touch the ball 24. What did he touch the ball 30 times last week? That's fine. I don't care. Terrible matchup.
I guess my point is it's pretty hard to say I'm going to play 3 running backs that are going to get 20 touches, and I'm not going to eat chalk on all 3 of them. I mean, it's just hard
That's
to
not
do.
true. Mixon was projected for 20 touches last week, and he was 5% owned.
But he was only 5,700.
Okay, this week, if we're just looking at that, like then maybe like I mentioned, like the James Conner or Miles Sanders. But, I mean, we didn't have the salary. That's fine. So maybe
same price.
Okay, so with 5K, there was no one down there besides Gaskin, who we all I confer that like Gaskin we all didn't like as much. Devonta Freeman, someone I didn't consider, but we're down there like around guys that are like at least I don't know what projections you're looking at. Obviously, your guys' own, but the ones that I'm looking at, it was like that's like the 14 touch range down there for the most part.
This is what I don't understand, though. Like, I actually don't think there's as much opportunity cost at running back, especially on a shorter slate like this. The wide receivers you are going to play at that same price are just as fragile as the running backs. And on top of that, there's this bonus of getting onto a different construction of everyone else. We've talked about the Empire Maker lineups, and everyone is like, I have to have these 3 stud lineups. We're getting a mid-tier quarterback. We're punting across these wide receiver slots. Everyone's on the same construction. And how we won 50,000 last week was just being on a slightly different construction. We're still getting in a similar amount of projected points. It's just slightly different. And I like taking a different line by getting in a Gibson. It automatically put us on a different construction. I don't know. I don't mind it.
What happened in the Dallas game?
Dallas turnover is what the chat is saying. They fumbled it.
Who fumbled? Not Zeke, I guess.
Still holding third here. Yep.
Holding third, but dude, it's I'm gonna have to survive Hunt trying to run the clock out of this game, and then Slayton too. There's even more Slayton teams, so it's dicey. It'd be huge if Zeke could get me the points to pass to second, because then even if other teams pass me, I'm at least past that team that's dead in PMR. Sure. And I separate from some of the Hunt teams a little bit more.
We got one person in the chat that says it was a Zeke fumble. Someone else said it was a Dalton fumble. Based on Leone's points, it seems like it was a Dalton fumble.
They gave it to Dalton. Oh my goodness, Slayton is just
7 catches for 115 yards for Slayton. The good chalk, bad chalk. Apparently, he was good chalk. TTP, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
the process.
I mean, Thunderdome, right? You guys fade a 64% receiver almost every time, right? Is there any scenario you would play 64% receiver?
No, we faded Olamide, and we feel great about it.
Yeah, I mean, we basically matched Robbie Anderson with Hollywood also at 4%. I mean, realistically, before the slate like even started, we see these ownerships. We see that we have Hollywood at 4%. Like we were pretty pumped about that. So in order to get there, we had to do some things. I mean, we had to get a little bit different. Not having CEH was a great fade. I mean, we basically matched him with Gibson. I'm plugging all these, holes, in the Gibson play, but he did not tank our lineup by any means.
I mean, Gibson was a little fragile. You're right, though. I mean,
he was, but his price tag reflected that fragility.
Right. I guess the pushback I would say is he scored 10 DraftKings points and pretty much everything went wrong. For 5K, that's not too bad. But
like the last couple games, right? So last game he had 13 attempts, but he did have 5 targets. So actually that's more than I thought he was involved in the passing game. So I'll concede that slightly. The week before, 9 carries, 3 targets. I think we maybe all 3 of us were like, yeah, like I kind of.
If I didn't have an old man bias, I might have pushed a little bit more on Devonta Freeman.
Yeah.
He was a tough one because it seemed like his role was slowly growing and he was going to ice Gallman and Dion Lewis, but you still feel a little gross about it. Yeah. And then you're also projecting a negative game script for the Giants, and you're like, is he going to be the one on the field in passing down situations? It was dicey, but again, I don't mind taking cracks on it. The guys I was considering was the Gibson and David Johnson down in that range. I wasn't using David Johnson and Watson lineups, but I sprinkled him in there too. But I don't know. I think I just approach it differently than Holka. I like taking the shot on these guys down here that could see the 20 touch game at cheaper prices, because I'm generally intrigued by the ceiling that a lot of the wide receivers offer.
Pete, but like the difference is that like, well, we were playing this week, there's 25 people. You got to be 25 people. Half of them are playing their cash lineup. I think that like those are chances you don't really have to take at running back. Just my opinion.
I disagree because everyone else is playing those same 4 running backs. They're all doing it. Like we're literally.
But it's a position that you can feel good about eating that chalk and getting different elsewhere.
We ate Mike Davis chalk. We ate Kareem Hunt chalk. We said we weren't going to play 3. I stand by not playing 3. I think playing 3.
I never wanted to play 3 of them in this, for the record. I think that like the one construction that still makes sense to me, even like taking the results completely out of it. We talked about how if there's one player that I've been completely wrong about, like being like the actual like similar type of floor as some of these elite running backs, it was Michael Thomas last year. He just buried me constantly because I wouldn't play him. And playing DeAndre Hopkins in the flex, which was a construction we messed with, would have been similar to that.
Playing DeAndre Hopkins in the flex is like the same as if like the 3K receiver we would have had to play to make it work is technically your flex. Like you would have been okay with a 3K receiver instead of Gibson. So
that's fair. Honestly, I didn't think of it that way. That's fair.
Because honestly, part of the reason I suggested Gibson was because I know you really like to get that third running back in. You know, so unless you're just going to eat a ton of salary. I mean, that's the thing. Like if you're going to eat a ton of salary, like yeah, I guess you could have. But
didn't we mess around with a Watkins build at one point? Watkins in the flex. I can't remember the exact team, but it was like we were like pretty close. Like not like any of this matters because Dak's out now.
The thing we were probably closest to was a Cooks Hopkins instead of Gibson Brown, but I don't think that quite fit.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was the thing we came closest.
Hank
but
Lockwood
even that
says,
was a Dak back.
Hank says, I don't like it when my dads fight. This is the anarchy I tune in for. Jamarius says, so this is the tilt space today, I see. Hey, we finally had to live up to the name. Sam asks, do you guys only do single entry contests and come up with only a handful of lineups, or you a max enter the big contest? I think I can speak for all of us and say we're collectively only building, 4 to 5 lineups and playing those across 3 max and single entry stuff, unless I'm misrepresenting your guys' DFS portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, last year I pretty much only played the 1500 on DraftKings, and then I'd make like 5 teams on FanDuel, like the 200 and down or something like that. This year, I haven't been playing as many like the higher stakes, mid stakes stuff at DraftKings. I've been just making like 3 or 4 teams per site. Leone's like almost always 3 max though, correct?
I'm pretty much 3 max single entry once in a while, or really just fields that are like 500 guys or smaller. Him build about 5 to 7 lineups a week. Once in a while, like the FanDuel Millie contest is usually pretty cheap to MME. So the one week I like Eagles Rams stacks a lot. Didn't really know what to play. Just thought they'd be super low owned in MME. So I jammed 150 Eagles Rams stacks. So if I see an opportunity like that, sometimes I'll MME it. But more times than not, I'm not doing MME. It just takes a lot of time. It's worth it, but to get all your exposures right, to get your correlations right, to get the team builds the way you want it, I'd rather spend the time on my hand builds and contests where I can win without being perfect.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. And someone asked, Holka, can you throw up Leone's lineup in the luxury box again about that idea of not having to be perfect? Again, I'm going to speak for Leone here, but I'm going to guess he would never toss those kind of constructions in with a full onslaught with 3 pass catchers in the Millie Maker, because you need to be perfect at every spot. And Leone in this contest is saying, I just want to be right on the Texans offense, and I'm going to cover the roulette board with all of these pass catchers. And he was able to get like nice floors and ceilings from a lot of those guys, but you're not going to win a Millie Maker with 3 pass catchers from the Texans, right, Mike?
I mean, the ceiling's probably not there. You need to hit the absolute nuts. So, I think you're right. You got to think about it as when you're getting to really large fields, you almost need this ceiling everywhere. Whereas I can say, okay, one of the Texans is going to hit the ceiling and 2 will be all right, which is exactly what happened. Cooks hits the ceiling. Fells is pretty good for his price tag, and Fuller just doesn't kill me.
This is a good conversation, because I think that like people always ask like if it matters how like large the entry fee is. I don't think it matters at all. I think it's the field size is what really matters. So Leone, like my question for you is like, at what point does like a full onslaught or a game stack like this that you built in the 3K field size wise, like at what point do you feel like it gets to the point where, you need to get a little bit further away from correlation and just try and hit all those dots?
I think once you start getting a few thousand, several thousand entries and above 10,000 plus, I would say the price does matter because when you're looking at a team with Brandon Cooks and Darren Fells for combined sub 8K, and then even Fuller's not that much. That's a little bit different than if you're playing two 8K receivers and a 5K tight end, right? To support those guys, you just need such an absurd day. Whereas Fowles arguably like hit his ceiling, right? Like 14 points at 3.4K at a volatile tight end position. So I would say the price does factor into it. It's a lot easier to do on DraftKings because guys can get there in multiple ways, right? They can get there uh, racking up catches with a full PPR. They can get there with a bonus. Whereas on FanDuel, it's harder to onslaught because it's half PPR, no bonus, and only one guy can score a touchdown at a time, and you really want to maximize your touchdown potential.
And they're capping it out too at 4 guys per team, so you could never like completely go ham on a team, or if you really wanted to, it's just like one less guy. In DraftKings, you can do as much as you want, right? As long as you have 2 games. Is that the rule?
Yeah, I think so. And Zeke's 9 from the bonus.
All right, there's some good questions coming in here in the chat. Real quick, like someone said, I don't see the problem playing 3 chalky running backs if you like all 3. That's fine, but you're going to have to get unique elsewhere. Like you can't play the 3 chalky running backs and then the chalky quarterback and wide receiver stack. Then you're running a cash lineup and you have no leverage. You have no chance to really lap the field. Jamarius says, thanks for the contest selection advice, guys. It really does make a difference. Definitely stacking is so less stacking in those huge $50,000 entry tourneys. Definitely. You got to get every single thing right. The guys, they want an update on our SPY lineups. We famously do compete against each other in the SPY. Leone, you have the same lineup in the luxury box in the SPY, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. I have a lineup that is currently min caching, doubling up in there. I have a team that was similar to Leone's, but I didn't have the stones to include the Cooks for the triple stack. I had pivoted off of that to get Fells and Fuller in with the Chenault bring back, and Gibson hurt me, and I had Tyreek Hill as my one-off, and he didn't quite get that ceiling. Man, that early touchdown he had called back hurt a little bit there. Holka, I'm sure you are just thrilled to talk about your SPY lineup right now.
Yeah, no, I already talked about it. It was basically it was very similar to Leone's team, except for everything he got right, I basically got wrong. So instead of Mike Davis, I played Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Instead of playing Hopkins, I believe that I had who was it? Let me see if I can find it.
And I need this Zeke bonus so
yeah,
freaking
you're 9 yards, right?
Oh, I played Chark instead of Chenault. That was the other part of it. Yeah. Did you guys see like how much some of these expensive defenses just smash? Like we talked about Rams, Ravens earlier today. Like even I guess Browns is 2,700. They were a really good play. Some of these expensive ones. Steelers D only getting 8 points. That's kind of a kick in the shorts. I thought they were in a great spot.
This could be Dallas's last drive too.
So, I mean, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but in Leone, you've been the one that was kind of hammering this home for Joe and I, but someone was asking about, fading some of these chalk running backs and just chalk constructions. And he said, even when the contest is only 25 people, can you maybe put a bow on that again of why being a little bit contrarian or even super contrarian is positive EV and even in a small field contest?
Yeah, I think, sometimes I think it's even bigger EV because you don't have to be that contrarian to be way different than the field. And if you're way different than the field and the chalk fails, you can win in so many different ways. Awesome said it, win the low scoring slates, not the high scoring slates. And that's kind of what I'm thinking at. And in these small fields, when the ownership condenses so much, there's such an edge to be had. It's not like we're playing way worse plays. And you can still play some of the chalk. We played Mike Davis. It's not like we went full fade on the chalk. So I think the other thing, you have to just be willing to say, okay, I know this guy's a really good play, but there's a chance that Zeke. Oh, fuck you. Oh, what a stupid fucking play.
Sorry, I'm not laughing. I'm upset for you.
I mean, it just in a play fake to Zeke, he was kind of open on a dump off, and they ran a throwback screen to Pollard.
Yikes. Let me ask you this, Leone, and I'm not just like playing devil's advocate here. Like in a field size like this, if we were to play, just like even put it in like those top 4 that we talked about, if we played all 3 of them in a kind of crazy scenario that you guys would just hate me, but don't you think there's still ways we could have gotten different at wide receiver, even just in our stack in general, to where like eating the chalk at those running back slots still would have been okay? Or is it still not? Is it still not unique enough in something like this?
I guess I just like I don't want it to be one. I don't want it to be like a 1v1. Like that's the thing when you go contrarian, like you have so many opportunities to get things right. Like we had so many opportunities to really just absolutely crush. And 2, it's going to be hard to have a totally different high upside stack. If you're eating the 3 chalk running backs, it's a lot of money, and you've got the same exact salary left as everybody else does to fill out your quarterback, receiver, tight end. So yeah, you can get different. Like arguably you could say, hey, just don't play Zacchaeus, just don't play Slayton, just don't play Robbie Anderson, and play all the chalk running backs. But I don't necessarily think that's the best idea.
Like
Joe, to me, the question is like, I don't mind your thought process, but it's like we still want a game stack, right? We still want a double stack with a bring back. So if you're playing those 3 chalk running backs, what is the double stacked bring back that you feel comfortable with that not fits and is also not chalky?
That's what I was just going to say, that like maybe it isn't a full stack situation. Maybe like in this specific week, we would have gone with a skinny stack and then tried to get different, very different with our one-off. So like the only like, I don't even know if this would have worked out with salary, because obviously all those guys were in the mid 6K range. So maybe this is all for naught anyway. But just in theory, playing those running backs that we know are all really good plays, but then getting different at tight end. There was tons of cheap tight ends that were in play this week. Can we agree that? Yeah. There was some cheap tight ends at least in play. Fells, those type of guys.
I guess. I mean, not any more so than any week, but
well, I'm just saying, getting different already though by paying down at tight end when a lot of people are paying up for Kelsey and Kittle was something that would make you a little bit different in roster construction.
Sure, but you still barely can. I mean, it's not like you're playing Hopkins in that build. I mean, you can't get up even if you go cheap at tight end.
Right, but we have these.
I would say.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, for how I didn't feel comfortable about any of these non-stud tight ends. And it goes back to that thing of letting the game stack remove how many things I have to be right about. And I'm going to play Fells in a Watson stack. I'm going to play Herndon if I have a Kyler skinny stack. Like I'm going to let the game stack dictate my decision so I don't have to be right about everything.
So if we're doing 3 chalk running backs and then saying, okay, let's just do a skinny stack because we can't afford a high upside stack. At this point, we've just played a cash game lineup with like 1 or 2 pivots.
I guess that's fair, because what I've always kind of talked about, at least like some of these type of contests, like the main like kind of way that I had success in the 1500 the last couple of years was by building what I thought was optimal first, and then doing a very significant either roster construction pivot or a very significant significant leverage play as like a one-off, like trying to get a guy like at wide receiver that's like sub 5%, like multiple guys like that maybe they're a little bit cheaper, maybe they're a little bit more thin, but in a field like size like this, to your guys' point, you don't have to be perfect. So I'm not saying even on this specific slate it was the correct path. I'm just saying that in a field size of 25 people, I think there's more than one way to the top. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. But the way I build is a little bit different. Instead of saying, okay, here's the guys I like most, regardless of ownership, and here's my one pivot, after the fact, I'm building almost the exact opposite. I'm saying, where's my biggest leverage on the week? Where can I get the most leverage? And then I'll fill out. So it's almost like the opposite is sort of the way I'm approaching it.
Do you find that being running back though? Usually, like your biggest leverage spot is not
always, but not always. But I mean,
we've had
if you smash the running back chalk
for sure.
If you've smashed the running back chalk all year long, you've done terrible. You haven't won a single GPP if you've smashed running back.
Last year you won everything though. If you just played Christian McCaffrey every week with another guy that was chalky.
But we don't have a Christian McCaffrey.
That's why I'm trying to think of different scenarios.
Not even true. And that's the other thing. It's like Zeke today. He's going to score 25 points. He's fine. He's not killing you or winning you. He's just fine. And like the chalk ends up there more times than I think people realize. And that's when you think of it as like, okay, if he does what he does 60% of the time, some of that time it's going to hurt me a little bit, but it's not going to kill me.
I'm willing to work on it, guys. Like that's that you have my promise that I'm willing to work on it, and I will stop giving you guys so much shit about these running backs. No, I think that for sure. The reason I was
lately.
trying to transition this is because I think that like quarterback was kind of interesting this week too. Like we agreed that Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were really good plays, but like I guess there was a very slight consideration for paying down for maybe Danny Dimes, probably not for anyone cheaper than that. But also we had like Kyler Murray at like single digit ownership to like the ceiling. Like we liked Hopkins. Like, do you think we should have taken a longer look at Kyler, even though we didn't really, maybe a skinny stack type of situation with that, or were we just all in on Dak for the content, which I respect?
I think Kyler is fine, but going back to playing the 3 safe running backs, you're not playing Kyler Nuke and getting in 3 safe running backs, I guess.
Oh, for sure. That's what
I'm thinking.
We're talking
real
about
quick,
we're forward-thinking show. We're talking about the quarterback now.
2 things. Chase asked how much was CEH owned in the Thunderdome. He was 60%. And just one point I want to make too is like, you know how you hear sometimes if you follow the cash game guys, we got our friends at the Guildcast, they'll talk about cash game for the week and they'll say, everyone's playing a 2v2 this week. Everyone's playing a 1v1 because everyone has the same lineup. And then it's just, is my 1 off or my 2 off better than yours? You're really close to flipping coins there. And when we get on a different construction or a game stack, we're saying if we are right about this general idea, we are going to beat you in a 25-man field, as opposed to just saying, let's all just remove 7 spots for our lineup and flip 2 coins on the 1-off. That's why it's really attractive to me to game stack and try to get us on a different construction and being right in a different way than our opponents.
I'd agree. I think that's very well put.
I don't disagree with that for the record.
No, you're asking great questions. I'm not trying to make it sound like you are disagreeing. And it's always good to talk these things out. Like if everyone's like, yeah, let's do that. If we all agree too easily, it's probably not a good process. I really need these for a Zeke point. Oh fuck!
Down to 5th.
That hurt. Yeah.
What happened?
Slayton must have done something.
So you're gonna get overtime though, right?
Well, unless the Giants score here.
They're on the 38 right now. They're on their 38.
That was a big drop.
What's this contest like in terms of like, so 200K, 125K, 75K, that's the top 3. It drops all the way down to 40. It's actually not that bad, yeah.
It's a very good payout structure.
Yeah.
10th place is 10% of first, which is what I look at. Second place is more than half of first. Third place is more than half of second. I like the payout structure a lot. So like 5th place, like I'm gonna have a very good week if I finish in 5th. It just sucks to be very close if we just get that Zeke. If I get that Zeke bonus, I'm probably finishing 2nd.
9 yards.
I think you can get it. So the 2 teams that jumped ahead of you. So the Browns game is done. So that defense is done. Both the people ahead of you had Browns and Slayton, although JL has Freeman too.
Yep.
Which hurts, but you can jump Herm for sure. And you can still jump JL and you can jump Papa Gates pretty easily.
What's Freeman have right now in terms of his like touches overall? He was not on my radar, so I'm like trying to figure out if I just missed something. He has 17 rush attempts, 3 targets. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Machukas in the chat asked, can someone explain why CH was 70% owned in Hunt, 15% in cash games? I don't think any of us are in the cash game streets, but we've been talking about these 4 chalk running backs, and one of them was going to get squeezed in cash. And I guess by those ownerships, it seems like Hunt was the one that got squeezed.
Yeah, no one cares about. No one's saying, "Oh, I can't believe CEH is 70%. I should play Hunt at 15% cash." Like, you know what I mean? Just throw the ball away, Danny. All right, Dallas is getting the ball back.
Yeah, Dallas has the ball.
Maybe I can get a couple of Zeke checkdowns. I don't think they're gonna run, but I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, guys. I can't handle this.
We'll see you. Come back. We're gonna talk so much shit about you while you're gone.
These wide receivers at the top, are you kidding me? Claypool, Fulgham, and Cooks are going to lead the way here. So there literally wasn't a wide receiver above 6K in the top 4.
What Hopkins had to be top 5, right?
Yeah, he was 5th.
Look at you and your arbitrary goalposts.
It's not about what you say, it's how you say it, Pete. You know this.
I knew you were boxing Hopkins out of that.
This is why I don't write anymore, man. It's so easy to like frame your argument just in a way that it basically meets your narrative. So say that you're talking about like someone that's like really high in air yards for the week, but you can just say that they're top whatever on the team, but there's like only one or two viable options anyway. So their target share, of course, is going to be larger. I don't know. There's so many ways you can. I've heard Matthew Berry talk about that before too. There's so many ways you can frame an argument in your favor, no matter what, just by the way that you look at the data. It's why like there's so many flaws in content anyway. I would, anyone out there listening right now, if you're only reading content and that content is being written on a Wednesday or Thursday, you are absolutely doing it wrong, in my opinion. I think that there's so much more value in being involved in conversations on Sunday morning as things are happening. So you get these people's like real feelings. There's tons of people doing content out there that are getting their stuff written on Wednesday or Thursday for a full game. That is not that valuable, in my opinion. You want to know, like, as the slate is progressing, what is different. Like, I don't think there's much value in that at all.
And I think this is an important thing to consider. Like, as Joe and Mike and I are arguing or fleshing out different viewpoints, if you want to play the 3 chalk running backs, there are ways you can do it. The question is, does the ownership and the prices align for those game stacks that you might want to fill in around it? And there's the other factors of ownership changing as the week goes on. Like, we were on Mahomes and Watson, and then at the last minute, we realized this steam on Mahomes and thought, holy cow, is Dak going to go under-owned again? So there's all these factors, again, where you don't want to lock yourself in early in the week, being like, I'm playing these guys, I'm playing this stack, because we just proved it of ownership changes literally in the last 12 hours before the slate, and the type of running back plays and their ownership, it all changes. So I think the moral of the story for me is to remain very flexible up until lock. Joe and I like to build lineups on our phone. We'll throw them in the Millie Maker, throw them in the $3.20 max. We get a feel for builds, and then we just get it out of our system.
Yeah, you're taking a dump. Build a game stack, like toss it in the Millie Maker. Just get it out of your head.
Yeah, get it out of your head, and then you have a really good feel when we get on our call at noon. And we say, we know all the different build types. And now we can be like, okay, this is how the ownership's changed. Maybe we need to focus on this stack. So there's no one right answer. There's no one right construction. The whole reason we love this is because the puzzle pieces change every week. And it's our job to figure out how they best fit together.
Oh my God. I can at least get 2 Zeke yards. I'd at least get back into third.
Let's go.
Let's get
That's
Leone
a huge
here.
pay jump, eh? To third. Third is 75K. Yeah. You're sitting at 40 right now.
That's a 35K jump.
So you're gonna stake the tilt space and we're rolling it back in the dome next week. I actually think that the 3K content is probably more what we're doing anyway, right? What?
Yeah. It's hard because like there's part of me that thinks if I played the Thunderdome every week, I'd do pretty well. But I mean, it's just a hefty outlay of capital.
Yeah.
Leone's looking for a stake in the Thunderdome. You heard it her first, fellas. Let's see here. How do you figure out that ownership is changing? Well, I mean, Levitan does the ownership projections for ETR, and his stuff was starting to change late in the week. He did a tweet and he said, I just did an update based on stuff. So let's talk about this, because it is definitely more of an art than a science with ownership. And there's this like self-fulfilling prophecy element to it too, where ownership can drive itself. How do you guys think about that, of ownership changing based solely on perception?
Go ahead, Leone. I'm in a battle in the chat right now.
Are you? I think what happens sometimes, like weeks like this, there's this obvious chalk pivot. And the problem is, there's people like me. I have a GPP show for ETR. You guys do content. If there's an obvious chalk pivot, everyone goes, hey, Kittle's going to be twice as owned as Travis Kelce. Play Travis Kelce. And Chiefs have the highest total on the slate, but Lamar Jackson and Dak and all these guys look like they're going to have more ownership than Patrick Mahomes. And when it's a very straight line pivot, I think that's when you start to see the ownership change throughout the week, because everyone kind of sees that straight line pivot.
I think that's
if I answer your question.
Yeah, and people in the chat are talking about this idea of content that comes out earlier than later. Like, content that comes out early does well. Like, we shifted the Swolecast to Wednesdays, and it's been doing better numbers than it did before because it has more of a first look element to it. So there's this idea of content getting out there because people want to consume it, but then stuff changes. And so that's why I think it's really important to be familiar and have a good feel for the slate and the plays, but also to be very flexible and reactive because a lot of stuff can change. You'll hear, I forget who was saying it, but like CSU on the Fantasy Lab stuff will do a drop early in the week with his favorite plays. They'll end up all being the chalk plays.
Yeah.
So they were great plays on Monday, but by the end of the week, they're so popular that they might not even be playable at their ownership. So I think you do have to stay on the pulse.
I think there's a ton of value, honestly, in like being around for these first looks because it's our first impression, all of those things. Like I do, like my main streams are on Mondays and on Wednesdays. So like I understand it. Like we need time. Like football is a weekly sport. We need time for these things to kind of evolve and like kind of grow throughout the day or throughout the week. But also like the best types of shows are the ones like Leone does on Saturdays. You know what I mean? He has all the information about ownership, all of those things. My main show is on Sunday mornings. That's when I feel the most confident on what I'm actually going to be doing on the slate. Until then, it's just trying to give you guys information. And that's normally what leads to what some of the chalk plays are anyways. It's not fun. It's not hard to find the best plays, like at all. It's really not that hard to find the best plays. It's hard to find the plays that are all actually going to help you beat others. And that's what Leone and those guys do very well at Established Around all that stuff, right? Your guys' shows are much later in the week than a lot of other people's. And I think there's a ton of value in that.
And the whole thing is if you're jamming a cash lineup, you are saying, I want to be right most of the time. Now, if you're trying to leverage ownership, you're trying to say, when I'm right, I want to win a shit ton. I want to be really right. That's the thing. So you might not win every week, but when you are right, you will be right in a very big way. And I think that's the distinction. You will make plays that feel uncomfortable, but when you're right, you're going to have a nice day.
What do you think about that, Leone? Content, whatnot, things coming out super early just to get it out there for the clicks versus like content that's actually helpful for others, like when we have more information later in the week.
I think it's helpful to get it out early and see where people's heads are at, get you a good idea of the base market, the matchups. Yeah, if you're playing, and it also depends if you're playing cash or GPP, right?
Sure.
Like if you're playing GPP, which we're primarily doing when the content's a little late. That's why Dink and I do our show Fridays. We get Saturday mornings because we get the Friday injury report, we get an updated ownership, but even still, sometimes ownerships shift from Saturday to Sunday, and then we have a couple of shows on ETR Sunday morning to try and address it. And you can't catch it all. Like you're trying to do your best to help people, but I think Peter said this at one point. It's an art, not a science, to an extent. Like I wasn't on Dak Stacks all week, and then because I just assumed he would be chalk, and then all of a sudden it's like he's gonna be the 6th owned quarterback, and he's gone nuclear every week. It's like if people are assuming he's just gonna go nuclear again, I don't want to play him. But if they're not playing him at all, then I'll take that chance that these games will just keep going nutty.
Yeah. And someone said
game's over, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Leone.
Good run, man. That was a really good team. Realistic.
Finishes in 5th for $40,000. Very respectable ROI there. In the Thunderdome, we finished in 21st out of 25 places. No regrets. What's the photo Levitan always tweets out with the tattoo on here? No regrets.
Yeah.
I like our lineup. Someone said, do y'all fade chalk based on position? Like today, would you rather fade Slayton than Davis, or just does it depend on the chalk you like? To me, again, it's so contextual. Like we knew Slayton was going to be super chalky, and we knew Zeke was going to be really chalky, but we decided we liked that game. And so we said, how can we attack this game without eating a ton of chalk? We saw the Lamb and Gallup ownerships were going to be relatively low, considering to how they projected in a shootout game. And we were willing to eat a little Ingram chalk, one, because it's at tight end, which is a gross position, and because we didn't want to bring it back with Slayton, knowing he was going to be huge chalk. So it's all contextual.
That fucking field goal that Carolina gave up was an $85,000 field goal. Sorry.
Someone was asking the
space, right?
The tilt space. Yeah. If this is officially the tilt space for the first time, week 5, we made it. Someone was asking about the cash line in the Thunderdome. So 6th place out of 25 cashes this thing. 6th place was 168. 86. So just in comparison to even like the SPY, the single entry SPY, let's see what the cash line was in that. 1160th for the cash line for that one. So basically 158 was the cash line in that one. So it was actually a little bit higher in the Thunderdome. I think there'll be weeks though where the Thunderdome has a higher cash line, because if that's like a very chalky week, but I think if there's a week that everything goes wrong, I could see like the small field size in the Dome actually having a much lower cash line. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I think it seems very slate specific.
Yeah. All right. Well, good week for Leone. Not so much for us.
It's all right. Hey, 1.5 min cash Pete is back in the SPY. You know, we're back on the board, baby. Look, this is what it's gonna happen. The heaters are fun. They're fun as hell. But the whole idea of what we're talking about of getting off of these chalk constructions means that we're not always going to be on the winning side. We're going to take whiffs where the cash lineup and the optimals beat us. The point is when we do win, we win $50,000. That's the point.
Yeah, you can't win 50K every week, or else you just do it. So what did you guys finish in the SPY cash winnings? I'm updating our Tilt Space spreadsheet now.
I did not cash, so mine's easy.
I finished in 739th place, $150. The old 1.5x min cash.
Holka's winning this thing with his week 2 1K winnings. But as of right now, all three of us are profitable in the SPY through 5 weeks. Though Peter and I, it's a pretty small profit.
It's because that's where our flagships go. They just go in the SPY. They don't go in our main teams.
No. I believe
this guy's acting like we didn't just win 50K last week.
Literally, the bankroll is on the screen right now. We're still massively profitable in the year.
Of course we are.
Peter's like a little bit sad. I feel like he's been on this like insane run. We can't just give it all back. We talked about that, like taking like the principal out. Maybe we consider that. I don't know. Maybe we don't play the Dome every week. We'll see.
You guys, I'm so realistic about this. You guys were giving me shit about being a nit. I knew these losing weeks are coming. Like, that's how it's going to go, how we're building. I just want to have enough in the piggy bank so that in week 7, in week 8, when we hit that 50,000 again, we're solvent. That's all I'm trying to do. We're going to hit again. I just want to make sure we have enough in the piggy bank until we do.
I like it.
I should probably tail you guys for the next little while. If history says anything, I always have a very strong start, a very strong finish. The middle, not so good for Joe last 2 years.
I did just see someone, and I saw someone in the chat ask this. The guy who won the SPY had Chase Claypool at 0.8%. And at 4,100, like if he's the stone minimum, like I guess I can get it. But I do not know how you get on Chase Claypool at 4,100. I do not know how you do that. You needed a Deontay Johnson injury to get there.
Speaking of, I really got to point this out. Do you know who the winner of the SPY had in their lineup?
We're looking at it right now.
I'm looking at it. Yeah,
it's on screen. Oh my god!
He double tight end. He broke all the rules. He broke them all.
See, this has to be
when you go off the board,
bro. This has to be a dummy lineup. There's no way this kid actively played Claypool. Not a fucking chance.
I'm not saying it's a good lineup by any chance, but I am saying
that's all I wanted to hear.
You do see where when you go contrarian, you survive 8 points from George Kittle. You survive 10 points from Antonio Gibson.
No,
you guys think that I am this chalk donkey. I literally have you seen some of the wide receivers that I've played over the last 2 years? I don't care about any of the other positions.
Got this running back thing though, dude, that you're just.
Oh yeah, sorry. I like to play chalk at the one position that's easy to project.
Oh well,
Trouble in paradise. All right, guys. You wanted the tilt space. This week, you got the tilt space. Congrats to Leone on his nice finish in the luxury box, that fucker. But we will be back. I am willing to trust our process. I feel like we have a good thing going. We are going to keep putting ourselves in position to win. Real quick before we wrap up, Holka, final words.
Yeah, pretty much in terms of like what's going on throughout the week. My streams Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, and then obviously all the stuff going throughout the week. Tuesdays, we have a morning show where we go bets against the spread. Obviously, Peter and I do a show with Matt LaMarca on Thursday nights before the Thursday night football game. We go through all the Island games from a betting perspective, from a DFS perspective, all that good stuff. And then the Sunday morning stream directly after mine at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then Tilt Space, of course, bring it all together at 6:30 p.m. That's pretty much it, man. A lot of stuff going on, but it's a good time. Week 6 already. It's just flying by.
Leone, final words.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't got much. I'm exhausted. We're going to bounce back next week. I'll say you can find me and Drew Dinkmeyer on the ETR Established a Million show on Saturday mornings. I try to take a lot of concepts in the lineups we build. I think next week, let's get back to making a couple lineups though. I think if we had made, and not to prolong the show, but if we had made 2 or 3 lineups, we would have played Watson stack and we would have rolled.
Yeah. And I think I would just say my vote right now would be, we do the luxury box for 3,000 and we max the juke for 1,200. So we're in for 4,200. We have 4 lineups and a shot.
What happens if we pick the wrong lineup for the luxury box?
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here.
End screen going up. Good job, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We do really appreciate it. I told you we would end up tilting. Just a reminder, this show has been sponsored by Carlson's Honey Crisp Hard Apple Cider. Smash the subscribe button. We flew past 5,000 subscribers on the Line Movement channel. Let's get us to 6K here. Hit the like button. We will see you guys next Sunday, where this will be the sweat space again. I'm done tilting. We tried it out this week. I didn't like it. Next week, we win again. We'll see you guys next time.